Deron, good to have you, man.
Yeah, good to be on.
Yeah. These are my favorite podcasts because, you're growing up. There's a time in your life when you sit down with somebody and you reminisce or talk about their lives. It brings you back to that time and space. Like I remember where I was when you guys beat the Rockets in Game 7. I remember when you got drafted and everybody was wondering if it was going to be you or Chris Paul. And it's just kind of fun to kind of see how your life has evolved and kind of how you ended up still staying here in Utah or coming back here to Utah, I guess, after all those years away.
Yeah, well, there's never been really years away. I mean, years from playing away, but I've had a house in Utah for pretty much since 2005, so 20 years. Since I was drafted, I've always been in Utah, in some form or capacity.
Yeah, a lot of guys, I think they get to Utah and they just feel like, oh, this is a little bit too small for me. I know you grew up going to West Virginia every year and visiting your grandma and then spending time in Dallas. I feel like Utah probably wasn't quite as much of a culture shock for you.
No, I mean, I feel like I could live anywhere for the most part. And so, yeah, like when I got drafted to Utah, like I was excited. I was excited because, number one, we had a good coach, had a good team the year before that had got hurt, so was able to, fall in the draft. So I was excited about that. But yeah, I mean, I loved Utah since I got here, and I went to school in Champaign, Illinois. Other than partying, there's not much to do there, right? It's, it's middle of cornfields. But so, after living in Champaign for 3 years, coming to Utah was, it's a big city again.
that makes sense. When you got drafted by Utah, did you have a preference? I know it was the big question was, is Utah going to draft, Deron Williams or Chris Paul? I think a lot of Utah fans, I know for me and my buddies, we all wanted them to draft you because we always felt like Chris Paul was going to leave pretty quick. If he came to Utah, he wouldn't really fit in with the Utah culture. We'd been burned by a few, guys before that. And so for us, we're like, Deron Williams seems down to earth. He seems like the kind of guy that would want to make this at home, which was completely true. But for you, did you have a preference? I know, I think the Hawks drafted right before the Jazz, and there was a chance you might go there. There was a couple other teams in that top 5.
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie. I wouldn't have not wanted to go to Atlanta. Yeah, and I was honestly surprised. I was surprised Atlanta didn't pick me or Chris. Like, that's what I was most surprised about, because they had a big need for a point guard. And they had like 3 or 4 like really good of those like hybrid 3-4 guys, And so it was really weird that they went with another one in Marvin Williams when they could have drafted a point guard. But yeah, I did want to go to Utah. Like, that was like probably, it was either like I knew I was going to go, I thought I was going to go 2nd, 3rd, or 4th was kind of where I was thinking. And I did feel like Utah probably had the best chance to win. But Atlanta was strong as well and was, a city that I definitely wanted to go to. I almost went to Georgia Tech out of high school.
Okay.
So Atlanta was kind of a place that was on my radar as well.
How'd you end up picking Illinois? I mean, you guys ended up having that magical run your junior year, make it to the championship game. You said you almost went to Georgia Tech. How does somebody that's, being highly recruited, well, I know there's a couple schools you wanted that maybe didn't recruit you, which was probably kind of nice later on to become who you did. But.
Well, in a way.
How'd you end up at Illinois?
Yeah, so mine was honestly, it was kind of like, there was a lot of events, I guess not a lot of events, there was a big event that happened. So the week before I was supposed to start kind of my visit process, my list was down to Illinois, Georgia Tech, Tennessee, and Maryland were kind of my top 4 that I was like set on. And so I was supposed to line up to visit all of those within like, a month or two. Like, no, I think it was like a month because trying to make a decision pretty fast. And then the week before 9/11 happened.
Oh, dang.
So that halted all flights for a while, put a damper on things as far as, that process went. And so when flights resumed and stuff started back picking up, it was like kind of around that time where guys would have already committed, guys would have already like, had where they're going for the most part. And so I had my visits lined up, and the day or a week before I was going to Tennessee, which was my first visit, CJ Watson committed. And
did you guys end up being teammates later?
Yeah, we played in Brooklyn together.
Okay.
And then the day I was supposed to leave to go to Georgia Tech, Jarrett Jack committed, who I ended up being teammates with, him and CJ at the same time in Brooklyn.
He's a great player.
And so my other ones were Maryland and Illinois. And Illinois was already my favorite, but they had D. Brown there. He was another point guard who was a McDonald's All-American. So there was a little part of me was like, all right, why do they need 2 point guards? But they were selling it as I'm the point guard, he's the 2 because he's more of a scorer, whatever. And then supposed to go to Maryland, and then they told me like I had never even really met Gary Williams. And Gary Williams was not, he like all of a sudden wasn't going to be at the visit. And I think it's because they already had Steve Blake there. So that was another reason they were probably 4th on my list because I didn't necessarily know if I'd go and start right away, which I probably wouldn't have.
Okay.
And the other 3 I would have.
They told you the coach wasn't going to be there for the visit?
Yeah. And so I just canceled that visit and committed to Illinois before even going on the visit. Went to the visit like a couple weeks later.
Well, it turned out to be pretty serendipitous. I mean, you end up having some amazing coaches there. Bill Self, and he wasn't Bill Self then. He was just, he was.
No, he was Bill Self. I mean, he wasn't, he hadn't won
multiple national championships and everything else, right? One of the top maybe 5 coaches in college basketball the last 20 years. And then you also had Bruce Weber, who both of them end up being phenomenal coaches.
Yeah.
Going back to that run, the NCAA tournament run your junior year, what's more exciting, making an NBA playoff run or one of those NCAA tournament runs?
I mean, they're different, right?
Happens fast.
College was fun. I mean, you're a kid. You don't have all the politics of the game. You're just out there playing for the love of the game. You're not playing for money. You're just playing for the love of the game. And so that run was definitely special, for sure. Olympics were probably the most special for me. And then the playoffs after that.
Okay. Well, you guys had such an iconic, we'll get into it.
But also never won a championship. So if I won a championship, that's fair. It might be rearranged.
Yeah. I mean, the Olympics, obviously that was such an epic team too. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but the Redeem team and everything else. And when you came out from college, back then it was like, okay, I'm going to get paid nothing or I'm going to go make, all this money. And especially we were a top 5 pick. How do you see it changing stuff? What do you think about all the changes with NIL and the college game today?
I would have stayed the 4th year.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can actually make more money for a lot of guys.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have, but
yeah, you wouldn't have.
But I would have probably made a killing in NIL money. So, like at that point, maybe I would have stayed. I don't know. Probably not.
I would have. What would have bothered me because I remember just playing, even high school ball and like a little bit of after that. It's you have your guys and you're going to war with those guys. They become your best friends, and it would have been really hard to see them at that level of college because you're trying to build like a team together and guys, leaving every year and bringing in these mercenaries essentially every year. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much if I was in today's game.
It's definitely a different dynamic, but I feel like with our team, we were so tight knit that we probably would all stay together.
All stayed there.
Yeah, and we would have tried to get a championship after losing in the national championship game. So I feel like that's the reason I would have stayed.
Yeah. Well, when you first got to Utah, it was kind of an interesting situation because Utah didn't have a good point guard, but Coach Sloan, just being Coach Sloan, is not going to play you, even though you're probably the best guy at the time.
Yeah.
Probably was pretty tough being a kid and just kind of feeling like you're getting, I don't know, getting jaded a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like I did definitely built up a lot of resentment that my rookie year just because of how things went. It was almost like, and I think he does a lot of that on purpose to see how you react, how you respond. And that's a lot of the older coaches.
I was going to say there was a time that worked in the NBA. That wouldn't work in today's game.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, number one, you'd probably be fired.
Yeah. Well, the players are the asset, not the coach.
Yeah. Well, not even that. It's just like I guess it's just a different game. It's like about developing guys, and the way you develop guys is to play them. Especially if you're a team that's not. We ended up winning 41-41, and we missed the playoffs by 1 game, but you're still a young team, and you got a young core. You want to get those guys as much playing time as possible. So yeah, it definitely was tough for me, knowing that I was the best point guard on that team by a large margin, and still he started 3 guys before I ever started my first game, and one of them was an undrafted rookie who wasn't even a point guard, and he started before me.
Just making a point.
Yeah, and so it just
How did the other guys react to that? Because they're trying to make the playoffs too, and they know you're the best one.
Yeah, like I said, we were a younger team. Definitely guys were vocal about it, at times to me, and talked me, through it. Especially like Booze and Memo and those guys. But I learned a lot, I guess, and it made me go through some things that I probably wouldn't have went through without it. So
yeah,
you know,
you guys had such a fun run. It was, I think as Jazz fans, we were worried we were never going to have a really relevant team again. And, Stockton and Malone was so iconic. And there was only a couple of years they missed the playoffs. And all of a sudden it's like, oh man, we're really good again. We got, D Will and Booze and all of a sudden AK-47, and I think that dude was way underrated, by the way. And that dude, it was one of the most athletic people to ever play the game. But it was just really cool to have a team again that was really good. You guys ran into, unfortunately, there was two, I would call mega teams at that time, the damn Spurs and the damn Lakers. Yeah. And every year in the playoffs, man, they got us. Yeah,
I mean, that first run, my second year when we went to the Western Conference Finals, we just ran into a team that they were better than everybody. I mean, they swept the finals. And I feel like we could have beat anybody in the East in a 7-game series. And so if it wasn't for them, we probably would have been champs. And then 3 years straight after that, we lost to the Lakers.
I know, freaking Kobe in his prime, man.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, obviously it was Kobe, but they were loaded. Their team was. I mean, Lamar, Powell, Derek Fisher, just the guys off the bench. They ran that offense, that triangle offense to perfection. And then again, Kobe. And then you got Andrew Bynum too. I mean, they just had a lot of size on us. Yeah, no, those teams were loaded. When the whole thing went down, you find out you're getting traded. Probably had to be because there was no rumors, there was nothing out there, and it was so shocking to us as fans. I'm imagining for you, just crazy moment. Yeah, I mean, I was getting ready to play. I was at home in Dallas. We're playing the Mavericks, and I was getting taped in the training room for a shoot around, and it flashed on the screen that I was getting. That's traded. How you found out? Yeah, so I called my agent, and he didn't know, so he called and then called me back 5 minutes later. I was like, yeah. Oh man, no one even called you and told you first? No, I think it happened so fast. I think it was one of those things because they were waiting on Kevin O'Connor, from what I have heard, was waiting on whatever happened with Melo. Because he didn't even, I don't think he even told anybody I was available. Because the Nets were trying to get him. The Nets and the Knicks. Is that correct? The Nets and the Knicks were both trying to get him. Yeah, so they had packages. Both teams had packages for Melo, ready, right? Got it. And so whatever team I didn't go to, Kevin was just going to, go to that team. At least that's what I've heard. I don't know if that was true. I don't know if that was. And so I think it happened pretty close. It was right at the, right around the trade deadline. So a lot of what the Jazz kind of, the way I know Greg Miller at least positioned it at the time, I remember the news conference and he was basically put it on, we didn't think we could re-sign him. Mm-hmm. Is there any truth to that? Yeah, did you want to re-sign in Utah? Yeah, I was probably going to leave. Okay. Yeah. So it's probably a good move for them at that point. I had told him. Really? Yeah. What was the main reason you wanted to leave at that point? I just think me and Coach Sloan were getting along and just just kind of felt like it had ran its course. And so that's tough as Jazz fans because we'll get these iconic players and then they leave because we won't be able to keep them, right? Same thing happened with Donovan Mitchell. And it's hard because you kind of feel like, okay, well, what could we do as an organization or what could Utah do to keep guys like you? And I guess in your case, it was just a conflict with the coach. Do you think if Sloan had retired before that all went down that you would have stayed? I don't know. I think maybe at the time too, I wasn't getting the same recognition as other guys. And I felt like maybe being in a bigger market would be good. And I wanted to explore. I think wanted to explore, what options were out there. A big part of me wanted to go home to Dallas. Part of me, had always wanted to play with Kobe in LA. So, those were different was that things. An option that almost came up playing with the Lakers? For me, I mean, it's something I'd always thought about, I think, especially playing with Kobe in the Olympics and stuff like that. It was definitely a thought. But I obviously I hadn't thought that far. I was still under contract for, I think, a couple of years. So it wasn't I wasn't leaving. Do you think and that makes sense too. Well, it's people forget this when you're in a professional athlete, you don't really get to pick the place you go work. Every other career, you kind of get to pick where you go. Yeah. But if you're an NBA athlete, for example, you're going where they draft you, right? And you're going to sign that first deal, and then you're going to sign the second deal just because of the way they've set it up. So you're really your first 7 years, 8 years,
you're going to be at that one spot unless you get traded towards the end of that contract. But yeah, I think it's very enticing to be like, wait, I do want to see what I'm worth on the open market. I want to see what else is out there.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't want to stay in one place my whole career. I don't think, just the way that I'm built.
Yeah.
Do you think the Jazz would have paid the max contract that you got from the Nets?
Yeah,
Did you guys discussed all that?
No, I mean, like I said, we hadn't got that far because
You were kind of one of those guys.
I was still 2 years out from a deal, from a new deal. So
when do they start bringing that all up?
I think usually like the year before, the summer before, because I think you can sign an extension then.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So it probably would have got there like that summer, when you would have started talking about it.
Gotcha. When you got to the Nets, they were making moves. I think they just either right before or right after you got Joe Johnson, and then was that years later?
Yeah. So I was there for a couple years.
Where it was pretty bad.
Couple stinkers. Yeah.
Okay. Because they were so bad. I remember they had one of the worst records ever.
Yeah,
and
I was there for the lockout. So I got traded. I finished out that half a season. And
you're like, no.
I think when I got there, they had won like 12 games.
Yeah,
maybe.
it's bad.
It was bad. And then the next year, it was a lockout year. And we won, I don't know, 20 games, maybe 26. I can't remember. I don't like thinking about that those times. And we were still in New Jersey. So, and then that next year is when we were moving to Brooklyn. That's when we brought in Joe.
Okay.
Yeah. So Joe started in Brooklyn.
Okay. Yeah. And then a couple of years later brought in KG and Paul Pierce and all that.
Yep.
You guys had a pretty good run one of the years there, right?
We lost in the second round.
Okay.
That was the farthest we made.
Who beat you guys that year?
Miami.
Oh, the LeBron team.
Mm-hmm. Beat Toronto first round, and then lost to Miami. And then the other year, I think we lost to the Hawks.
Looking back on that, I mean, you had some injuries and some things that just unfortunate. And I don't think people realize how much an injury sets you back as an NBA player, because everything was your movement, your speed, like your ability to cross over, everything that you did so well. And I think you had a wrist injury. I can imagine trying to shoot and you've got problems with your wrist and stuff. And so I think it was just probably a really hard time as a player going through those injuries, and fans have these giant expectations. Looking back on that, how difficult was the time in Jersey or Brooklyn, I guess? But
I mean, it was tough. It was a tough 5 years. I mean, the first 2 years were rough because we stunk. And then after that, played. So the whole time I was in Brooklyn, I think I played like the first 3 years, 3.5 years, I played for 4 coaches.
Wow.
In 3.5 years, which that's tough, right?
Did they change the offense and stuff too? The way that you guys played?
Every coach has a different offense. Well, yeah, for the most part, yeah. Every coach.
So you're relearning it every year.
Yeah, and we had different players coming in and out every year. We're kind of like a team that's in the port, that's in the in college right now. Just guys in and out, different lineups. And then my home life wasn't the best as well, and so that was definitely probably the most tough. Dealing with that and dealing with injuries, it definitely took a toll on me mentally, and just New York. Like I loved living in New York. I loved some of the things about New York, but just that time for me wasn't the best, and so I wasn't able to enjoy it and really get the best.
I think it's a part too that fans don't see is players go through real stuff, and they're dealing with marriage issues, kid issues, and you started having kids young. I think were you in college when you had your first?
Yeah, I had my freshman year.
So you had 4 kids by the time you were what?
26. So my last one was born. So I got traded in February, and my last one was born that March.
Wow. So you're dealing with 4 little kids and moving across the country and everything else. What was the most difficult part of being a dad, being a young player in the NBA? I mean, 4 kids is a lot.
For me, it was just missing time with them,
like
missing a lot of stuff, like missing first steps and missing daddy-daughter dances and, all the stuff that, you wish you could go to and you can't explain to them, like the kids don't understand, like, why they're not
it's
there.
True, because their world's just what they know, right? Yeah. It's not like my dad's in the NBA.
So I think that for me was the toughest thing, being a dad. And I was a very hands-on dad. Like I wasn't one of these guys who just didn't change diapers and didn't, I'd watch my kids. My kids would come on the road at times, like when they had breaks and stuff, and I'd bring them in the playoffs on the road. Like I wasn't one of these guys that needed to be away from my kids to like
focus.
Like no, they're my life. Like that's not. Me being a dad is not going to affect how I am at 7:30 at night.
Yeah.
I still get my nap. As long as I get my nap, I'm good.
Did missing out on so much of their childhood play into retiring with when you did?
No, not. It was more like mentally. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't between the injuries, what was going on at home, and just like I just was like, I couldn't do it.
Well, I get that more than ever. The peak of my career as a real estate agent, my last year I was a full-time agent. It was my best year I ever had. I was the number one agent in Utah that year. And I just kind of wanted to do something different. And a lot of people were like, you're crazy. What are you doing? And so I kind of understand. I remember when Barry Sanders was retired and everyone's like, what is he doing? But the wear and tear, I imagine after enough injuries and enough things where you're just like.
I didn't want to. I think it's just mentally I couldn't take it all at the same time. And so in a sense, I was choosing my family, even though I really wasn't at the time, but
it's like, what's the thing that I can put the most focus on to try to.
Yeah. And so I did, once I was out, I did enjoy being able to be at all my kids' stuff and so that after I stopped playing, but there was times where I was like, damn, I should get back in. I should give it one more go. And I just kept letting time go by.
Did you ever get close to giving it one more go?
No. Do you know what's crazy? I would have the most vivid dreams. I just played, and I would wake up and thought I was still playing, but no.
Damn, I can imagine. Well, because you were still physically. You went and started doing some boxing after that. I remember when you were boxing. I think was it Frank Gore?
Yeah.
Because that dude's a scary looking dude, man. Every time I see that guy on the field, you're just like, oh, that's a dude I wouldn't want to fight. And you went in and beat him in your guys' boxing match, and that was years later, I believe. So you clearly still had the athletic ability. Was with the amount of work it would take to work through the injuries as well. Is that kind of the part that just weighs on you so heavy?
Yeah, I don't know. At that point, I just I don't know, I just kind of lost hope in basketball, I guess, or I don't know what it was. Just like I said, I was in a very dark place in my life. And so I definitely think after how the last run went for me too, where I just kind of, in the finals, I was 2 for 13 from the field.
That was with the Cavs, right?
Yeah, in the Cavs. But it was just a hard situation to be in, going from, always having the ball in your hands to going and sitting in the corner and being a spot-up shooter, which is not my game. I'm a rhythm shooter, rhythm player. I I get my confidence from my bounce and from having the ball. And I was like, if this is how it's going to be, I'd rather just be done.
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of athletes on this podcast, and they all say, there's no high like getting in that arena. And imagine, when you're on your game and you're, in your prime and all those things. And a lot of them have a tough time just leaving that behind or transitioning out. What did you do? You said it was a really dark time, part of that time in your life. What did you do to take care of yourself and get out of that place?
Nothing. At first, I distracted. A lot of golf, a lot of skiing, and so eventually that, after 2 years, it got kind of old. I was like, I got to figure something out. But I didn't want to get into basketball. I didn't want to do anything with basketball, really. I didn't want to coach. I didn't want to, because coaching would put me right back in that lifestyle, right back.
It's true.
Being away from my kids. And then COVID is when I separated from my ex-wife and got divorced, and then got a divorce shortly after. And so, now I'm going from having my kids, 100% of the time to now it's 50-50, right? And so I'm definitely not, I only have them half the time. I'm not going to spend half of that, half a time away from them on the road. And so I had to go to the drawing board. And I had always loved real estate. I would always, had an eye for design. And I had done a couple spec homes in Utah while I was playing in Promontory. And so I was like, man, I think I could do this. And so started putting a plan together for how to do that.
Nice. And so are you actively still working a lot in real estate?
Yeah. I develop. And so I do teardowns in Utah. In Dallas.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, it's
single family mostly, or?
So yeah, all single family.
Okay.
I'm buying lots with homes built in the 40s, 50s, and pretty much the same area. I'm in the Preston Hollow area of Dallas, and tear them down and
little regentrification kind of thing.
Rebuild. It's not regentrification.
More.
These are nice.
Just putting nice houses on an already nice area.
It's a nice area. Yeah, that just
people want a new house.
Yeah, they want new house. I mean, these houses are built in the 40s and 50s. You're usually only getting them when somebody passes away.
Okay, nobody moves out of this place.
Not really. Not very often. No, I mean, people move out of them, yes. Like, I would say, like, out of the last 6 that I've done, 3 of them, 3 and 3. It was 3 and 3.
Okay.
3, I think, I don't know the backstory if people actually died, but I'm saying usually it's like older people who go into a home or go whatever.
Cool. It's
like
fun.
my neighbor right now, he's lived there for 40 years, him and his wife.
Wow.
And they're like 85.
Oh, wow.
And
Same house.
They're like, we just don't, like, where do we go?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They're grandfathered in on their property taxes, and, you know, it's like, where
It's
do we
really
go?
fun to, do that kind of stuff. I've flipped a couple hundred homes in my career as well. And it's just fun to go in and make something beautiful and change an area a little bit. And it's always there. It's like standing,
Change it a lot.
It's the thing that you see.
Yeah.
You made over $150 million in your career. What's the smartest thing you ever bought and the stupidest thing you ever bought?
Damn.
It's a question I like to ask because I know how many stupid things I bought. And then,
I bought a lot of stupid things. I do. I'm still buying stupid things. I do that every day. Every time I get on Amazon, I buy something stupid. Damn, the smartest. I mean, a lot of my real estate has been some of my best investments.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, get really good returns. So I would say real estate. I mean, it's pretty bulletproof for the most part.
How many guys were smart enough to invest in real estate from like teammates in NBA? Like how many of them get into real estate versus?
I think there's more than you would think.
I would bet. I mean, it's a lot.
I would think so.
I know it's a lot better now than it used to be because there used to be all those stories of how the players all blow their money and are broke a couple years later. But it seems like nowadays they.
Yeah, maybe not to the the extent of I am. I mean, I know a couple guys that develop. I mean, Charlie Villanueva, he's in Dallas. He develops him and his wife, and they do a great job. So there's a lot of guys. The dumbest thing, like a lot of dumb things, but my first car was pretty dumb.
What was it?
It was a Lincoln Navigator, and I bought it in Texas, knowing I was coming here.
So you had to drive it here.
Well, I had to I got it shipped.
Here.
I got it shipped here because I needed it that whole summer. I was getting ready for the draft and stuff. And then I got here and I lived up behind the Capitol, on that last row of houses you can see before you like turn the corner for North Salt Lake. Okay. And so my street was like a straight uphill to get there, and then coming out of the garage and going down is downhill and like a tight left turn. And first snow, it snowed when I was at practice. And so I was coming back up the hill and I couldn't get up the hill. And I'm like, why can't I get up this hill? Find out it's a 2-wheel drive.
Oh no, it didn't have 4-wheel drive.
I thought all
I would have thought that too.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know no better. I never had 4-wheel drive.
I didn't know.
I thought
they make ones that
SUVs
don't.
are 4-wheel drive.
Same.
No, it was 2-wheel drive.
Wow.
So the next day I traded in. I went and traded in for a G-Wagon.
Well, my dumbest purchase I ever made, I bought a riding lawnmower because I always wanted one as a kid, but I didn't have a yard, and I ended up never using it by the time I moved. It was like, so we all do.
Those are sentimental for me too because my grandpa mowed lawns.
Yeah,
and he would take me always with him and unloading it and riding on his lap. So I remember that too. That's cool. Never bought one, but yeah.
Yeah. What was ultimately? I mean, you've made Utah your home. What is it about Utah that makes it special for you?
I mean, for me, there's not a lot I don't like about Utah. I have like some of my best friends I made were here and from here, and I think it's gorgeous. I mean, not only Salt Lake, but just everywhere in Utah. You know,
it really is. So many different landscapes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's not many places like it. I enjoy outdoor activities, especially in the summer. Can't beat the weather here in summer, even though it gets hot still at night. You know, drops down in the 70s, which Texas is not that. Other places aren't that. So yeah, I mean, I just love it.
Well, it's been cool. I think the fans really embrace you too. It's not one of those situations where people are, he left us, and it's this bitterness.
Because people do say that.
Oh, they do?
They always say like, well, they'll be like, yeah, I was so mad when you left us. I'm like, well, technically I got traded.
Yeah.
I might have left 2 years later, but
well, maybe it was a blessing in disguise then, right? Because I know everybody that I know that's like, oh no, he got traded like in the middle of the night kind of thing. And so what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, and so I think a lot of people are curious. You know, somebody like yourself, your kids are older now too. I think you just turned 40. Is that correct? Or I guess
I'll be
about
41.
a year ago.
I'll be 41 this June.
Yeah. So what do you do to pass your time minus, you know, hanging out with your kids now that are you back in the game a little bit more now, or are you still staying away from that?
I need to be. The Jazz want me to be. That, you know, I talk to Ryan and Will a lot, and then you know, they're always telling me to come around. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Doesn't call you?
Yeah, I mean, at times it does, but no. Yeah, I hang out with my kids. Yeah, I got two. I got my oldest is graduating college this year. My youngest graduating high school. She's going off to college, and then I got two boys. One in high school, one in middle school, and then my youngest, he rides mountain bikes and dirt bikes, and so I've gotten into that with him, and we ride a lot.
Do your other boys play?
None of my kids play basketball.
Yeah, cool.
Not one of them. And
for you, was that an easy? I mean, I think the guys that really make it, they don't care if their kids play or not. Is what I've kind of experienced talking to other guys. Is that kind of how you felt about it? You just wanted them to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I didn't care. I wasn't gonna force them. Like my youngest, he played when he was like tiny, like, you know, first and second grade, but he hated it. He didn't want to play, and he said he only played because we made him. And so, but now all of a sudden he's going into high school and he wants to try out for the team. I'm like, bro, where has this been? You know? So he said he's going to try out next year. But yeah, I'm just not one of those guys that forces. I was going to force my kids. I was going to let them do whatever they wanted to do and figure out their lives.
I mean, for me, I know when I hit like 41, 42, as my body I started feeling a lot more. And I mean, I can't imagine the wear and tear you guys put on yours.
Oh, mine was way before 41.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how does your body hold up? Like, how bad is that?
I'm always dealing with stuff, and then I ride mountain bikes and dirt bikes, which doesn't.
That's probably more.
It doesn't
worse than anything.
Doesn't help. But no, I feel pretty good. I haven't had to replace anything yet. You know, I'm bone and bone on both knees, and I have arthritis in all type of places. I'm always dealing with little nagging injuries when I get up in the morning. It takes me about, you know, a couple minutes to walk across that room. But once I get going, you know,
it's oiled, it gets moving. Yeah. Is that pretty impressive for you to watch guys your age? If there's a couple guys still in the league, not many, I guess, but
crazy. LeBron, CP, like CP played 82 games this year. I can't even imagine. Oh my God, dude, I can't imagine. I even saw Braun last summer at in Vegas before they left for the Olympics, and I was like, dude, how are you doing this? He's like, bro, honestly, I don't know. I know he's got to be hurting. There's no way. I mean, he definitely takes care of his body, but I mean,
I think he's famous for spending a couple million a year on his body, but but
there's no way he's not in pain. You know,
it's pretty great. People, you know, they do the LeBron Michael argument. I was like, look, if you're adding longevity, it's not even close. Yeah. Like, I'm not even a LeBron guy, but you have to give him his accolades. I mean, the guy is the best to ever do it over an extended period of time. I think that matters.
For sure.
You got to play with him in the Olympics. Go back to that experience. Did you think you were going to be, I mean, at that point in your career, a lot of people were saying you were the best point guard in the league. And so I'm guessing you were expecting to get picked on the Olympics?
Yeah, I think 2008. Yeah, because that's kind of right after we went on that run,
right?
And made it to the Western Conference Finals. It was that next year, and you know, I kind of solidified myself as being one of the top point guards in the NBA. But like the year before, I didn't get picked. They picked I forget who it was, man. It was somebody that pissed me off. Was it like Luke Ridnour or something?
Oh, wow.
There was like a couple guys. It was like, wow. You know, I didn't even get consideration, but I just use like stuff like that to kind of push me and fuel me and motivate. So yeah.
What was your highlight from that Redeem team? By the way, if you haven't seen the documentary, if you're listening to this, it's unbelievable. Go watch it. And you played really well in the Olympics. You guys got the gold, came back, Kobe and LeBron. I mean, it's one of the, if not the best, probably next to the original Dream Team, probably the best team ever put together in basketball. I mean, there's got to be some highlights for you coming out of that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is an amazing experience. You know, it's kind of one of those, like, I feel like throughout my career, I would have like these little surreal moments, like, you know, where you're like, damn, like, this is real. You know, I think my first NBA game was one. I played against Jason Kidd, who was kind of, you know, one of the players that I grew up like idolizing and wanted to be like. And so that was one of them. And then, you know, making it to the Olympic team and like sitting in that room and just looking around and like seeing the other guys that I'm in the room with, you know. And then, you know, things like making it to the All-Star game, things like that, like are those like little surreal moments. And so I think that was one of them. And then obviously being up there on that podium, you know, having a gold medal put around your neck and hearing the national anthem was, you know, the highlight of my athletic career. And so it was really, really special.
That's cool. Did you, I think there's a lot of rumors of some of the stuff that came out of that team, as far as that's when kind of LeBron decided to form the super team with D Wade and Chris Bosh. Were you ever privy to any of that going on, or see any of that kind of stuff where they were kind of talking about it?
Not really. I mean, we all talked about about
fun
playing.
To play with you.
Yeah, of course. Like that's definitely, that goes on in any situation. But like, as far as like actually like them getting together, no, I had no clue.
Gotcha.
We all played cards together. A lot of us played cards together. But yeah, never saw that coming.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody did.
Tell us, do you have any stories about Kobe or anything you saw from him, from that team?
I mean, I feel like everybody knows the one.
Yeah, the one that's on the documentary.
Him coming, you know.
Killed Pau Gasol.
Guys going to the club when he's... Or we're coming out of the club while he's going to the gym.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was one of those guys that was coming out of the club, not going to the gym. But yeah, I mean, Kobe's work ethic was just on another level, and you could tell.
Even in that setting.
Yeah, I mean, just always, just everything's competitive. Always wanting extra shots, always, you know, in the gym focused, in the weight room focused, you know. A lot of, like LeBron, his work ethic is the same, but he's like, he clowns around a lot more. He has fun a lot, like with it a lot more. Kobe is just this. Talk about that Mamba mentality. He's just locked in at all times. It's like he's on a mission, right? And
well, you guys were in the heat of, like, you guys were basically two of the three best teams in the West at that time. Was there any kind of competition, even as teammates, where he's like still sees you as, you know, a competitor? Because
I don't think Kobe saw anybody as a competitor, honestly.
No,
you know what I mean, you know, like competition. I feel like that's how he
was just he got his nickname for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, you had a chance to play with, I mean, pretty much a lot of the greats of this era, between, you know, your Olympic experiences and playing, you know, when you played with Dallas, you got to play with Dirk, and you got to go to Cleveland and play with LeBron. Who's a couple of your favorite teammates, or the best teammate you ever had, as far as guys you played with, that just made it fun to be an NBA basketball player?
Yeah, honestly, like Dirk is one of my favorite guys I played with, and it was like towards the end of mine and into his, and like that's when I wish I could, like, you know, I actually was gonna go to Dallas. I had wanted to go to Dallas until Cuban didn't, like Gary Williams from Maryland didn't come to the meeting. Oh, for real? And so it just kind of put me off.
Is that when you chose to go sign the big contract with the
Brooklyn,
Nets?
Yeah.
You would have signed with Dallas if you...
I put a contract on a house and everything.
Oh my gosh.
It was in escrow, just wait. I was like 90.
That was your choice?
I wanted to come home. I wanted to be back home.
Like, what happened there? How come he didn't come to the meeting, or what?
He had an episode of Shark Tank.
Stop.
Yeah. And so
were you more offended, or you more thought maybe this isn't as like the right fit now, or what was the mindset?
No, it was
of that?
part of that. It was just the meeting didn't really go, like, it was just it was Donnie Nelson and Rick Carlisle, and then Michael Finley, which I've known Finn. I've known Finn, but then, like, I didn't know Rick at the time, and I didn't know Donnie at the time. And Donnie's very eclectic, a little different.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yep.
And Rick is Rick.
Super serious, right?
Rick's just Rick. I don't know how to say it, but Rick is Rick, right? And if you don't know Rick, you're gonna be like, this guy, I don't know if I like this guy. I don't know how I feel, like, in a quick setting.
So they're trying to recruit you at that. They were trying to recruit you at that meeting.
I come to play for Rick for 2 years after that, and I loved Rick. Like, loved Rick and loved Donnie. But the meeting just didn't, like, I'm coming from Brooklyn meeting and just being around them, and like everything's laid out and what they're gonna do and what they're this and that, right? And then with Donnie and Rick, it was like, just basically just trust us, which I probably should have, right? They just won a championship. But it's like, you want to hear what's going on. What are y'all trying?
How do I fit into your vision?
You know, what are y'all trying to do? And so I didn't really get any of that, and it was very like offsetting. Like, it just kind of like, I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to. Maybe I was like, I'm too committed to home too quick, and so it made me like reevaluate, and I ended up choosing Brooklyn.
Wow.
Which, I don't know if I could do it all over, and I wouldn't change anything, because everything happens for a reason.
We make the decisions we do, and that's a fascinating story though. Was there anybody else that was close? You were close to maybe picking at that time? You talked about the Lakers a little bit. It was
literally
those were the two.
I don't even think I really looked at anybody else.
Did the Jazz ever want to reach back out once Jerry was gone, anything like that? It was kind of that ship had sailed?
Yeah. I don't think I would have went there either.
Gotcha. What's your current situation or relationship with like Boozer?
Booze? I mean, Boo's cool. He's a fun dude, texting man. The other day. I think he's going to spend some time out here this summer. So, he was hitting me up about playing golf. I'm like, bro, I don't really play golf anymore, but I'll play for you.
I had a chance to interview him a couple years ago, and he's one of the most outgoing dudes I've ever met. Sure. I couldn't believe how easy he was to talk to.
Booz was a great teammate. That's another one that was one of my favorite teammates. Honestly, the years of the Jazz, like honestly, most of my favorite teammates are from those years. Like Memo, Booz, CJ Miles, like Ronnie Brewer, Paul, like Kyle, like Ronnie Price. A lot of these guys are like still guys that I talk to this day.
You guys seemed like a really tight team, and those were probably your, as far as like success in the NBA goes, those were, some highlight years for you for sure. Yeah. You guys were just, everything was, really
No, we were definitely
magical.
Definitely one of those teams that was like, we did a lot of stuff together. We were always, always doing stuff together. It was good because we were a younger crew. So yeah, it was just like a good fun group.
That's cool. What's some things about Utah that the average NBA player maybe has a misconception about? I always ask this because I think so many guys think Utah, they hear these stories about like these racist fans. I've never heard a racist fan. In fact, I think Utah goes the opposite. We care so much not to be seen as that, that if anybody did anything, they would definitely get, ratted out. But
I feel like there's racists in every city, number one.
Sure.
Number one, so I will say, I do think fans here go hard. I don't know. I haven't heard anything racist personally, but I do know people. I think it's every arena. I mean, people get crazy, especially when they have some alcohol in them. People say stuff, man. They feel very secure up in their seats.
It is a weird thought that like, they think because they're paid to watch this game, they can just yell whatever they want at these people out there. I had Steven Jackson on my podcast and we talked about the Malice in the Palace and just went into that a little bit and the things that people were saying and doing. They actually came down on the court, and then Steven Jackson ends up getting suspended for the year when the dude's like literally ready to fight him on the court. I think
Jack went up there first. He went up there.
Well, first
he went up there. He went up there with Ron.
When Ron went up at him, though. Remember?
Well, I know that. But what I'm saying is, Jack. Don't say Jack was just down on the floor. Jack went up there.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean that whole situation, it was
crazy.
Yeah, like I'm not blaming Jack at all.
Yeah.
I would have probably done the same thing. Like my teammate goes up there.
That's my point. Is like,
I'd be one of the first guys up there.
Yeah.
So
when you almost feel like you should as a teammate, you're like, if one of my teammates is getting jumped or whatever, you have to.
That was a good documentary too.
That was really good.
Yeah. I feel bad for Jermaine because he it kind of really affected him.
It did, and he was, a couple of those guys ended up having a couple things after that go really well for him, including Steven Jackson. But that was kind of the highlight. That would have been that was the year they were kind of
could have won it. Yeah,
should have gone the whole way. So as far as fans go in Utah, nothing crazy compared to anywhere else, though.
I don't think so. I mean, but like I said, I don't know. I haven't heard anything racist.
What's the best thing about Utah that an average NBA player wouldn't know? Like if you were pitching someone to come play Utah, what would be your sales pitch?
I don't know. I mean, that's a tough thing, right? Because like I feel like guys have different preferences, right?
Right.
Like some guys care about like nightlife, and like Utah doesn't have that.
No,
they don't have that. But if you're a guy with kids and family, like this is a great place, Yeah. And it's not saying that like Utah doesn't have anything to do, because I think if you were here for the All-Star game, there was a lot going on. But yeah, I just think it's the fans are amazing. Like they're all in. We were a one-team town. We're now a two-team town, but I don't think hockey's going to take away from the Jazz, and I don't think Jazz are going to take away from hockey. No. They love their sports here, whether it's collegiate, whether it's BYU, Utah, and so definitely dedicated fans, and I think it's a beautiful place. There's a lot to do outdoors, a lot to do. Like I said, if you got a family.
Yeah. Well, that was a perfect situation for you, especially. I mean, having those young kids, I'm guessing that this was literally like the perfect spot for you at that time in your life.
Yeah.
A lot of people have talked about the modern day game, the last 5-6 years. A lot of fans are a little bit turned off to the way it's happening now. What do you think NBA needs to do to get the interest like it was when you were playing? Like me and all my friends, and we're just a small sample size, but it seems like the ratings, all the talking heads on TV are all saying the same stuff, but they say the game's just not as fun to watch. Fans aren't as interested as they used to be. What do you think about all that?
Oh, I think it depends on what fans, right? fans who don't like change, who you know, I don't know. It's just like I just saw something. Weren't the ratings up for the first round by like 17%?
It's compared to last year.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
I think they jumped up. So
one thing the NBA is doing these playoffs that I've really liked is it feels like they're letting them play a little bit more.
Yeah.
So the game's been
More
really
physical.
fun to watch. Yeah, and the games have been good. You know, there's been a lot of road teams keep winning. Like it's been a really good playoffs. It seems like.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the game is different. You know, it's way different than when I came in the league.
You see the difference quite a bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's geared for scoring. I mean, analytics are a big part of things. Guys are chucking up threes. You know, people want to see scoring. And I think a lot of that gets cut out in the playoffs, you know.
Yeah.
I think the game buckles down. And so maybe that's what it is. I think because I don't enjoy the regular season as much as I do playoffs. Like I barely watch regular season basketball because I think the playoffs are more.
Well, that's me. I love watching the playoffs, but regular season I'll put it on the background maybe. But the playoffs, it's pretty intense. It's fun.
Also, I think the world is full of distractions, right? Like
That's true.
back when we were growing up, like there wasn't a lot to watch like every night. Now you can turn on Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, YouTube TV.
Even when you're watching
like,
a basketball game, you've got your Twitter on, you've got your Instagram
there's so many distractions. YouTube, like it's just like
It's true. NBA's, to me, it's my favorite sport to follow the drama of it. It's almost like a TV series to me. There's so much going on with the off season and the players. Mm-hmm. It's really fun to kind of follow all that. Whereas the NFL, it feels like for agencies like a 2-day thing. And MLB, it just draws out forever. But the NBA, it's like so much drama. It's every move is so big because you only need 3 great players to be a pretty high-end playoff team, you know, and from there they build out a roster. But so if one big thing happens, it just changes your whole franchise. Like you've got tonight, you got the NBA draft, you know, and if the Jazz end up getting the number 1 pick, it's forever going to change the way the next 7-8 years goes here in Utah. And so I just think the NBA is really
today
fun.
The lottery?
It's tonight, yeah. Yeah, what do you think Jazz going to get it? 15% chance. It's actually not very high for a team that tanks.
Are they supposed to be?
Jazz have. There's 3 teams that have an equally. The bottom 3 teams get the same chance. It's like 15%.
But it goes to somebody in the top 5, right?
It can go to the top 12.
It can go to
yeah,
top 12.
But their percentage is like. Remember when the Spurs got like Tim Duncan?
Yeah,
they were like the 12th team, and so they got lucky. Got really lucky. Even the Cavs when they got LeBron, I think they were like the 6th or 7th or whatever. But
so it's not rigged.
Yeah. Hopefully they rig it for the Jazz, though. I mean, the Jazz is one of those teams, you know, Cooper Flagg, I think, would be such a good fit for Utah.
Why? Because he's white?
No, because
Don't
I think
racist.
No, because he's the kind of guy that feels like he
This is why.
Because he played in Duke. He played in Chapel Hill, or not Chapel Hill, next door. And so I just feel like...
Why you turning red, man?
You know damn well that I'm right on this. You see... no, I've talked to enough guys in the NBA and, you know, that grew up in Chicago or, you know, in Atlanta or some of these other places. And Utah just feels like a foreign country to them.
Yeah.
And it's the same reason you wouldn't probably want to go play in Toronto. It's not because you're whatever. It's just because
Toronto's a nice city.
I know, but you talk to players that go up there and they're like, yeah, the TV's all weird. The food's all weird.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it just feels for it. And I think Utah can feel that way for a lot of NBA guys that aren't used to, you know, the smaller town life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like I said, like there's guys who have different priorities, right?
Yeah,
you know, they want certain things that certain cities provide. But like, as far as like NBA cities, like there's much worse. Utah's not even a bad city. But
no, I agree.
There's cities.
I've been to Cleveland and some of these other places. There's like
Cleveland's actually.
I can't find anything to do in Cleveland.
Actually, when I went to Cleveland, I played because Cleveland's like one of those places where I didn't really leave the hotel. We had a hotel that was attached to like this little mall. It wasn't a great mall, but it had a Ruth's Chris there. And you didn't have to walk outside. So I literally wouldn't even leave the hotel. And then they built a casino, and I would walk across the bridge. So other than that, I never ventured outside because I just didn't think there was anything there. And then I went and played there. It was actually like
really
decent, but also I was there into like May, June, right, where it got nice outside and like they had outdoor restaurants and outdoor clubs, and it was like, okay, this is okay.
Yeah, because I've been to a lot of these cities too.
But there in February and it's blowing 30.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Well, like in so many of the cities, even New York's kind of miserable in the wintertime to be outside. Yeah. Minus like Christmas is cool, but otherwise it's like I ain't going to New York in the wintertime. Yeah, Chicago, some of the cities are freezing cold. Milwaukee, no.
I mean, when I went to Illinois, I had never experienced a winter like that. And I went up there and I was like, I don't think people are supposed to live here. And I'm like, I don't think I think is this so, like, I don't think I'm supposed to be outside. That's how cold it was.
Freezing cold.
Oh my God. So cold. I literally didn't want to go to class. I was mad.
One of my closest buddies, he was going to be probably a second round pick in the NFL. This is 15 years ago. And I go, all right, man, where do you want to go? He said, just somewhere warm, dude. That's all I want is somewhere warm. And he got drafted by Detroit. So
that's a bad one.
Yeah, that was bad.
That's a bad city.
Yeah. And that time, the organization was
that's
a
a bad
mess.
city for me. That's up there.
Yeah.
Just because I think Detroit, because we didn't stay in Detroit, we were like, it's like way out. It's like 40 minutes outside of Detroit.
Oh, really?
And it was just like nothing to do in this little town.
Did they do that on purpose, just to keep you out?
Well, no, that's where the Palace of Auburn Hills is out. It's like out in Rochester or whatever. I can't remember what the city is. No, it's in Auburn Hills.
Oh, so you have to go out there.
Yeah.
I never even knew that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, dude, appreciate you coming on, man. It's been fun to chop it up and just remember a lot of those amazing moments that as a fan, that was when I used to go to almost probably 30 games a year at that time. I go to maybe 1 or 2 now. That was when I was at the height of my being a fan. And so had a lot of just amazing memories and a lot of fun and just appreciate you, man.
Yeah, well, appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for the time.
Yeah, for sure.